Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Theology on Tap. I hope the series on no justice and no peace is making some kind of a sense. Doing my best to explain some of the things that I believe in to you. I know it's not going to make much of a difference. I mean, if Jesus came 2,000 years ago and said that I came to my own and they rejected me, I don't know how many people will understand the simple word of Jesus Christ, because it is so difficult to apply it into everyday life because the world system is so much different. I think that's why the book of John says, in the beginning was the Word, and Word was with God and stuff, because the word, the Greek word is logos, which is logic. We get the word logic from it. There's God's logic and there's human logic, and there's totally opposite from one another, and it's very difficult to go away from the human logic, especially when it comes to justice. We want peace. So there's no justice, there's no peace. That's the understanding. So we're working so hard for justice. But as I said before, the harder we work at bringing about justice, we see a lot more injustice, right? A lot more. So it is very difficult. What is the right way to do it? And I think what the Bible says, what Jesus said, is do not resist evil. Instead of fighting for justice, what we ought to be doing is fight for righteousness, and that is our own righteousness. I think that's why Jesus, when he came to the earth, his follower Paul said that the righteousness of God came through Jesus Christ, right? And because of what he has done, we have the righteousness of God. That's it. Now, if you go by the law system, God's law, yeah, everybody's guilty and falling short of the glory of God. Just like in our justice system, everyone breaks the law, so everyone is guilty. Only few gets punished for it because they get caught. Same thing with Christianity. We say everybody's born sinners, but some people get caught and go to hell because they don't believe in Jesus, but others get to go. Even though we're no different than anyone else, just because we believe in Jesus, then we go to heaven. What about those people who never had a chance to meet Jesus Christ? Well, too bad. Too bad, right? That's what they say, because we have to go by justice system. And if you do go by justice system, yeah, there's going to be a lot of punishment. And from punishment comes what? Righteousness? That's impossible. Right? What we have to do is understand that God has made us right with God. We have the righteousness of God. So how do you put that into our social system? Basically is, instead of looking at things from a justice perspective, right? What needs to be fair? What is fair? Because even the word fair, how do you know what is fair or not? Because the more we try to bring justice and bring fairness into the world, just how the social justice warriors are trying to do, what you notice is that there's a lot more division that comes from that as well. There's no such thing as social justice, because whoever's in charge gets to decide what is fair and what is not. All right? So that's very, very difficult. That's why instead of going for social justice warriors, what we have to do is, I think, create a group, if we can. I mean, there's not going to be a group, but what we have to be fighting for is social righteousness warriors. People who are doing right, people who's willing to go the extra mile, people who's willing to say hello to neighbors and even strangers, shake hands and smile, things like that. And what the Bible tells us, and here's the problem, is that where is it? Where am I on? Chapter 15. Matthew 5. Okay? It says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. I know some translation has it, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they shall be well satisfied. People who fight for justice, such as social justice warriors, what kind of are they satisfied? Of course not. The reason why people become social justice warriors is because they're not satisfied and they want, fair treatment, whatever that fair means. So it's a wrong translation. The problem is this: in the Greek word, I forgot, it starts with D-I-A-K-O-N or something like that. That Greek word for righteous, right? Once it becomes a verb, right? So righteous is the noun. What's the verb form of righteous? There really isn't one, right? There really isn't one. So the word that is translated as righteous, which I believe is the right way to translate it, is righteous. Once it becomes a verb, it becomes justified. Right? So it's the same word in Greek, but if it's a noun form, it says righteous. But once it becomes a verb, then it becomes a different word, justified. And there's a huge difference between righteous and justice. Huge difference. And I think people try to make it to be the same, make it as one, but it's not. It's totally different. So I would say that blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, not justice. Because people who are fighting for and hungry for justice are not satisfied. All right. So that's the problem. That's why they what's his name? I forgot his name now. He was my favorite preacher. Anyway, he translated it as righteous-fied. Right? So Romans chapter 5:1, if you look at NIV and NASB, it says, since we have been justified through faith of Christ, right? Instead of saying justified, it should be since we are righteous-fied because of what Christ has done. We have peace with God. It needs to be translated correctly. It's not justified, it's righteous-fied. Or Young's literal says, since we have been made righteous. I guess that will be the verb form of righteous, right? So, chapter 5 of Matthew, verse 5, for blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. And once again, righteousness is being right with God, being able to do things that are correct, following God's, example that is given to us through Jesus Christ when he said, go the extra mile, turn the other cheek. Blessed are those who seek peace, right? Blessed are those who are pure in heart. It's the matter of heart. You don't make certain kind of rules in order to change people's hearts because it doesn't work. It actually creates more problems. And just think about it. You want to talk about the, social justice. What are they fighting for? Gender equality. Now, this has been a discussion for many, many years. Is there such discrepancy between how men gets paid and the woman gets paid in a same field with the same kind of job? There's a lot of study that's been done that says woman gets paid more. Whereas if you look at it as a whole, as a gender, men do get paid more because we do jobs that a lot of women don't do. I did construction for 2 years. Hard labor stuff. In 2 years, I found no female doing hard labor. And perfectly clear that, men are stronger. So if you want to look at it that way, then yeah, it's not comparing apple to apples. It's apples and oranges, basically. So if you want to fight for the right amount of pay for male and female, that's impossible. There's no such way to do it. So I would say if you really want to fight for equality, when it comes to gender differences or racial differences, education, and whatever it may be, let's start with the ones that we know for a fact that there are discrepancies, such as, playing in the professional football or basketball league, right? We need more Asians represented there. Are we as good as the ones that are playing in the NBA? Definitely not. Jeremy Lin was the best Asian American. And I think he deserved to be in the NBA. Some people didn't think so. They thought that he was just being a representative of the Asian, body in the NBA. But he started, right? He has some great numbers. It's too bad he got hurt this year. Only reason I follow NBA is because of Jeremy Lin, to be honest with you. So that means I'm not really watching NBA this year. What about models? There was an article that came out talking about the top 10 most well-paid models, and they're all women. There's no men there. See what I'm talking about? Where's the justice? When it comes to education, when we look at the colleges, there are a lot more women than men. There are definitely a lot more Asians in colleges than other race. So what are we going to do about that? Are we going to create some kind of a law to make it fair? Once again, anytime we get involved trying to bring about justice by force, it doesn't work. The best way to do it, I think, is to change the heart of the people by doing good to one another. I don't think that's that difficult. Why would it be so difficult? I don't think it is. So it is something that we ought to be thinking about. I think it's something that we ought to be doing. I think we have to change our perspective where instead of fighting for justice, we should be fighting within ourselves for righteousness. Let's be good to one another. And then we could work ourselves up from there. There's another example that I could think about right off my head is, when it comes to abortion thing, Roe versus Wade. That's a hot topic. A lot of Christians want abortions to be illegal. My stance has always been make it legal, because I don't think there has to be some kind of a moral law against certain things. However, I don't think it's murdering another human being. I don't think that at all. However, is it a good thing for a society to have abortions readily available and so many people actually abort their children? Of course not. So what's the best way to handle the situation? It's not to say one is morally better than the other. It's not to say here's the American law, and by law of the state you can't do this, you can't do that kind of a stuff. What we ought to be doing is helping people to do better in life, right? But treat one another well, and to share the ideas of God or goodness or whatever it is you want to do, and to win the hearts of the people. I know there was a ministry that was going around. There's like their main purpose was to find the doctors who are performing abortions and talking to them, not protesting or anything like that. Just talk and show them how bad, abortion it really is. And what about, the whole allegation of people selling parts and stuff like that. I mean, if all those are real, then that's something that needs to be discussed. Not that we have to make a law, but discussed. And I believe that there's a goodness in people that will ultimately win if we just get rid of the laws. Moral laws, that is, right? Get rid of it. And I think there's a goodness in us. So I think the big problem is, once again, within Christianity, is that we all believe that we're all born sinners. We're just no good people. So therefore, we have to, grill righteousness in you, just to tell people, and to make it a law, right? Make moral laws. Discriminate against evil, I guess, So that's how they do it. However, let's say that the way I look at it is, every human being is born with good. I mean, God's creation, there's wonderful things about it. When you look at a baby, you don't see evil, you see cuteness. You see someone who is, really hungry to live. That's why they cry. That's why they want to eat and all that kind of stuff. Our job is to, take care of the babies so that when they grow up, they could become the kind of person that they would want to be, the way that God created them to be, not the way we want them to be. Right? So we don't have to put borders around them to a point where we could, shape them to be in a certain way. Our job is to love them so they could, become what they want to be. I hope that makes sense. And we can't do that by, making rules and regulations where we have to stop the evil from spreading. What we got to do is create the good that flourishes. Right? That's how I look at it anyways. So instead of fighting for social justice, let's really live for social righteousness. Right? Be kind to one another, especially during holiday season. There's so many cars on the road. People are going nuts. There's a lot of parties and stuff like that. If you look at it from a social justice perspective, there's no peace. No one's satisfied. Everybody's angry at one another. Let's get rid of that. And the only way to get rid of that is to get that justice system out of our mind and put the righteousness system back in the way it was supposed to be from the time we were born, right? So that we could treat one another with respect. We could treat one another the way that we want to be treated. Simple as that, right? Seek peace, purity, be merciful, right? Hunger and thirst for righteousness. God bless you. I'll talk to you next time.